I do think that, those kind of investigative conversations with agents are really one of the biggest things that you and I or agents can do to just kind of help that process along.
Hmm.
I think there's a kind of it's not really a new trend, but it's been seeing a little bit more of that idea of just reaching out to the listing agent yourself. I've actually talked to a
Hmm.
friend of mine just recently who that's his plan. He goes to an open house, talks to the listing agent, gets what he can get. But I feel like, having, an agent that's in your corner, we can kind of have the no BS conversations with those agents
Sure.
because they know they're not selling us.
Right.
They and sometimes they'll tell us things I'm like, I can't believe you're telling me that this is what's happening. And you're like, okay. But
Right.
that's all good information that we can use to put together an offer that makes sense. We're going to look at comps, we're going to look at things like that to see what other houses have sold for, and if we're seeing that it's overpriced, we're going to put in an offer that is reflective of that, and also reflective of whatever other concerns that you may have as a buyer.
Hmm. Sure.
So let's talk just really briefly about neighborhoods and how we look at these kind of like market reports, or we look at stats or whatever, we talk about nationwide averages versus Northeast Ohio averages versus Summit
Hmm.
County averages. I guess I'd real quickly like to touch on, how you see, you know, areas shifting in those numbers. Is it like, would you look at Summit County as being kind of a pretty similar market from area to area, or are there like vast discrepancies from, we'll use West Akron and Barberton since I already threw that out there once.
No, I think that the common denominator for time on market is price point and condition, no matter where you're at. And the one of the other interesting things that, as I was reflecting on this, I thought about it's that, properties are sitting for 30, 45, 60 days. We're seeing it. We're, properties we're listing as well. But in many cases, when they do sell, they're not selling at a gross discount.
Mm-mm,
They're still selling, within probably 10% or 5% of asking, even though
mm-hmm,
they're taking that much time to sell. So it's more about people taking the time. It's about accurate pricing. It's about taking into consideration condition and all of those things. So we're still seeing price appreciation, even though we're seeing more time on market. And to me, that is indicative of just a balanced, positive market historically.
sure. Yeah. So, I think, one last thing, let's talk about, us at the Signature Group a little bit and just
Sure.
kind of what our philosophy is on looking at houses for clients and what we feel like, are the most important areas where we can really help people.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so, at the risk of tooting our own horn, I can say at the Signature Group, we live and breathe this market. We understand the neighborhoods, we understand the area trends. I mean, almost street by street in Akron for sure. And we certainly know the various communities in Summit County. Um, and while we may see appreciation and we're talking about the price and condition, but what may be happening in Highland Square may be different than what's happening in Fairlawn or Cuyahoga Falls or even within the communities within those areas. So, you know, I feel that at that depth of understanding of our market and our communities is a huge um, advantage to either a buyer or a seller in our level of care and education. And I know that's kind of been a theme throughout today's, chat, but um, the more educated you are in this scenario, the better you are certainly going to come out the other side. And I feel like that is one of our strengths at the Signature Group.
I would agree with that. I think I think everybody um, cares. I think that's kind of what our
Hmm.
biggest thing is that we want to see our clients get the best possible house that fits their needs. We want to listen to what you're actually looking for, and we're not just, trying to sell you into any house. So,
I got a Zillow snippet for that. You ready for this? When I
oh
was doing
yeah,
some
let's do it.
research, Zillow has some market research that shows that 1 in 5 buyers who do not use a buyer's agent end up with serious regrets about their purchase, either because they overpaid or they missed some red flags. So like those are their two big things. They basically wish they had more expertise. I thought that was very interesting because of this whole buyer's agent,
Yeah,
conundrum that has surfaced in the last couple of years. Is it worth having one? Um, yeah.
I I think
So
we could do a whole podcast on unseen stresses that
sure.
that buyers and sellers don't see
Oh
because they
yeah.
have a good agent.